Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to All for United. Back with some strong guests again. I'm privileged to welcome Callum, Stu, Satty and Bainesy to help me in the preview for the Chelsea game on Thursday. First of all, just to touch on what an unbelievable game that game was just then in the Champions League. I mean, hopefully one day we'll be back there having those kind of games as well. But you've got to appreciate that game that we've just seen in Europe. It was an unbelievable high-scoring game. Guys, wasn't it? Just ridiculous. But
we're miles behind it, aren't we?
we'll be there
alive.
But no, just to touch on the straight into the Chelsea game. Then, so I mean, for me, first of all, you know, we still just want to touch on whether we still think we're playing for Europe or whether we've kind of got to concede a bit of European football and we're just going to play for. Testing this squad out now till the end of the season. I'll come to Callum first. What's kind of your big takeaway for Thursday? Is it going into that game and just kind of putting on a display for the fans, or is it we're still playing for some European football? What do you think?
Not be embarrassed. It's as simple as that. I'm sick of coming on this channel and going, oh, we're crap, we're garbage. They don't care. There's no effort, because at this stage it's expected every single time we step out. And ultimately, I don't think anything else is going to be different on Thursday. I think Chelsea will probably beat us 3-1, 4-1, something like that. But Tom and De Gea will come out after the game and go, oh, we need to be better. We're so sorry, blah, blah, blah. We'll all be fuming and pissed off. And then things will carry on as usual. Nothing will change. Chelsea will just pick up a win. United will be destined for the Conference League. The whole of world football will laugh at us, and that'll be that. United aren't playing for Europe at this. We are not playing for Europe. Like we have this discussion so much. Europe was gone ages ago. I've got the table here. We are 6 points behind fourth. We have 12 points left to play for, and Arsenal have a game in hand on us, and Tottenham have a game in hand on us. We will, and at this stage, Wolves can get within 2 points of us with their game in hand. And West Ham are doing fairly well at the moment. We could genuinely finish 8th in the league. Who the hell would have said that in August? Not good enough. A lot of them should be ashamed of themselves. Let's just go out on Thursday and just try and enjoy something of it, because at this stage I give up hope. I don't expect anything from a single one of those players anymore.
Just to touch on that, obviously there's still... As much as it pains me to say, other European competitions, though, Callum, do you think, and it was a fair point because I was quite dismissive of it myself. I didn't really want to think about that. But then I was in one of the Twitter spaces earlier on in the week, and I think one of the guys that's usually on the show had said, look, Baines, it might have been yourself actually, had said about rotation. So it still gives us an opportunity to try players out and have that rotation with players.
I would rather be in the conference, the actual conference, than the Conference League. Get out of Europe for a year. If you want to try and experiment with the younger players and rotate, and do it in the League Cup. At this, like Manchester United in the Conference League, it's an embarrassment.
Yeah. It is an embarrassment.
If we want to experiment with younger players and give other players a go, then do it in the League Cup. Do it in some of the games that you would likely think. Do it in the lesser so-called teams in the Premier League, because next season we ain't winning anything either. So build up the club next season, get a good culture back in the club next season, get the right players in, and develop some youth players, because we ain't winning anything next year either. So blood the players and use the League Cup. Stop just going into competitions to give players games.
I've seen a few people. Sorry, Callum. I've seen a few people. I think Benny mentioned it, and God bless him. Honestly, he's a great guy, but he was saying about the Conference League, how we've seen it all and we've won a lot, and you know it'd be good to go into the Conference League and win that one, blah blah. But I'm just thinking, it's just that can't be the standard. I would much rather, like Callum, we finish 8th and just forget about Europe for a season. also with the whole Europe thing, it also then the players that we get in, they can't use the excuse. Well, they can use the excuse for not signing is I want to play Champions League football. And I think I mentioned this before that it automatically that then gives the motive of certain players that want to sign for Man United. And if they can't give up European football for one season, what makes them think that they're that this special player that needs to come to Man United and not fight for Europe and get them back into it? So for me, Europa League is just absolutely atrocious. The Thursday, Sunday schedule is atrocious. I hate it, mainly because I play football on Thursday and I can't watch the games. But I say just finish 8th, have a week between the games, let Erik ten Hag actually coach because you don't get any time in the Premier League. Many coaches that have come from other leagues to the Premier League have complained about how the schedule.
Why No Europe will be a better thing though, Baines? No Europe, give more time on the training pitch with Ten Hag.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, completely agree. No Europe, finish 8th. No Europe, week in, week out, which have Premier League and obviously the cup competitions, and just forget about it for a season. Let Erik ten Hag come in with his coaches and actually put in his philosophy. He will know it instantly what kind of players he needs. We'll use January in the summer. Hopefully we qualify for the Champions League next season, which I think it should be a target for us, and then go from there. But sod off this Europa League. Respect to the competitions, they're great. They have some great teams in them, but I'd rather not. Honestly, I'd rather not.
Oh, that's fair enough. You make some valid points, guys. And I'll just come on to Stu. What's kind of your thoughts on that? Do you agree with both Callum and Bainesy on that, or do you think there's a little bit more that we can get out of Europa League?
You've got to play European football. You have to play you've got to play European football. It doesn't matter what it is. You have to play European football. The problem is we're not going to finish 8th either. There's too many teams that will just fuck up. I've got a feeling that the Arsenal Tottenham match is their game in hand. I think they've got to play each other yet as well. So either way, it's going to cancel one of them out. It hasn't been our best season. I don't think giving Ten Hag 0 European football is the right move. For me, if we've got any aspirations, and it will take a while, it's going to take 3 or 4 years. We know all of this, but you've got to start back. The thing about it is we're not a Champions League side. We haven't been a Champions League side for 3 seasons. We haven't had the right players to be a Champions League side. So you start building your confidence back up with Europa League, whether it's Europa or the Europa League. With regards to blood in the youth, again, I certainly wouldn't blood them against Chelsea. That'd be a big mistake. Depending on what happens with Chelsea, our season's dead anyway for Champions League football. So Thursday's critical. Once you get over the brow of Thursday, it then gives you an idea of what you're going to do for the rest of the season and how you want to progress as the season. But I'll tell you something for nothing, guys. Ten Hag will want European football. He's not going to want him to come into the club with no European football. He's going to want to test himself from day one. And the only way he's going to do that is with European football as well as the domestic challenge that he's got ahead of him. So it's going to be really interesting. I think his first interview when he leaves Ajax will be quite telling, and it'll set out his stall for how he wants to go. But no, I go the other way. I think we need European football.
That's fair enough. Mr. Tom, nice to see you, mate. I'm going to come straight to Saturday just because that's just okay in the order was, and he's been waiting patiently. Yeah, Saturday, do you want to jump on that one, mate? Do you agree with Stu, or do you agree with Callum and Bainesy that what's your views on the kind of European football mindset?
I think I was in the Twitter space with you when I suggested that having maybe a European competition will allow Ten Hag to try the rotation, maybe try out new people in different positions. It gives us a chance for maybe his philosophy to be a bit more embedded so the players get used to it. So there's an extra game in the midweek. I know the Thursday and Sunday doesn't help, but if we are in the Europa League, we'd probably be one of the strongest teams in there. So it's almost like a backup option if we can't qualify for the Champions League. So not to say that we're going to go out and win it if we do get in it next year, But I do see it as sort of like a plan B as well if the league isn't doing too well. Because I do expect next year to be similar to this year in terms of like the roller coaster of results. Like it's going to take him a while to embed and get the players playing that philosophy. So I think having maybe the Europa League, probably rather than the Conference League, would be a bit more ideal. Only because the standard is probably slightly a bit better, and on top of that, it will give a chance for Eric Ten Hag to play maybe some of it might be a bit of a strong competition. Like this year, there was quite a lot of strong teams that went in there: Barcelona, Frankfurt, the likes of I think was it Leipzig? Yeah, I think they went in there as well. So it was quite a good strong Europa League campaign for many of the teams in there. But I think having I agree with what Stu said. Having some Europe is better than probably having no Europe, especially for a club like Manchester United, whether it's Conference, whether it's Europa League. I think it's something better to have than have nothing to have. So it keeps the players working week in, week out. We don't get that complacency. And I think you see that with Arsenal as well this season. I know they had that rest period week in the midweek where they didn't have to play any European football, but they did have a lot of complacency. Like when they played against Palace, I think that was their first game in like a week and a half, and they end up losing 3-0. Then they lost to Brighton. Then they lost to Southampton. So 3 losses come on the bounce of them not having any midweek football whatsoever. So I think it does lead to complacency as well. But all in all, I think I would prefer to have a European football rather than no European football.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. Miss Ton, do you agree? Do you agree with that?
It's 50-50 for me. It's like we need to be in Europe, but at the same time, I feel like with week to week and with how detailed and strict Ten Hag is with his philosophy, with the current group, if we're basing it off the current group, they need to be like implementing in their brain. Do you know what I mean? I feel like week to week, implementing in their brains as many training sessions as possible for them, that would help. But obviously, I don't know what's going to happen in the summer. We might have a different group, Rob. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm like, okay, we might not now. But with this current group, and I'm excluding the players that are leaving, but this current group, they need some really good coaching. Like really, really good coaching. So it wouldn't help them from playing one game a week. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion, that's just my opinion.
Right. No, that's fair enough. Well, no, it's also valid points, really. I mean, like I say, I mean, personal viewpoint is I think I slightly agree with Stu. I can sort of see points on both sides, really. That I think if we take a little bit of a respite out of Europe, then I think it gives Ten Hag a little bit more time. But then I think he does need to keep the players fit and fresh. And when you've got a big squad, you do need. I know we've got other competitions that we're playing for domestically as well, but I do think that Europe gives you a kind of a different dynamic. But yeah, obviously it's just kind of hard to bear the fact that Man United would be in a lesser European competition. I think that would be pretty tough to take. But yeah, no, fair enough on that one. Just kind of quickly move. We've kind of touched on some of the points regarding the youth, really, but I kind of do want to touch on that in more in regards to kind of the end of the season. And I think Chelsea's obviously a big game, not only for the fact that it's we have still got something to play for, but we've obviously been beaten by quite a lot of the bigger teams this season, and I think we've got something to address, especially at Old Trafford. So I don't think I personally want to see the youth sort of come into a game like that. But do you think that Rangnick now sort of switches it up towards the end of the season, starts playing with stuff that he was hoping to play with earlier in the season, like maybe mix up the formation, bring other players in that he possibly wouldn't have played? Maybe give Garnacho 10-15 minutes at some stage during this next few games, or basically, do you think he should bring the youth in at some stage before the end of the season? Callum, do you kind of agree with that, or do you just completely think that we should just be sticking with the same team that we've had for the majority of the last few games?
I don't know. I feel like I change my opinion on this every couple of days. A lot of people just keep saying, "Oh, throw the youth in," but I feel like it'd be quite a toxic environment at this point to be throwing the youth in. But on the other hand, I'm sort of like, well, could it be that much worse to throw them in? I think if it hits the point where Champions League's probably out of the question, I think you probably will see a few more of the youth players. I think I think Hannibal's a couple of games away from starting, to be honest.
Yeah,
I probably think he would have got a lot. I think he'd have come on in the Norwich game if we'd have put them to bed. But of course, Man United were Man United, and it went back to 2-2. So it was good to see him come on against Liverpool and show a bit of fight. The thing that's bothering me slightly is seeing a 49-year-old Juan Mata come on when we've got youth players who could be given a chance. You know, the likes of Garnacho coming on at left back would be nice to see. Hannibal coming on. You know, all these youth players with such talent who could be coming on and getting a few minutes just to show maybe, you know, I can get into this team and I can force my way into this setup. But I don't think against Chelsea we'll see much. We might see a few minute cameo from Hannibal again, but other than that, I think maybe the last couple of games of the season, when we hit game week 37 and 38, we might see a couple of the youth maybe start, maybe come on at half time kind of thing. But I don't think we'll see too much against Chelsea.
Yeah, I suppose we've got to be a bit careful, and so is Ranić, really. I'm not sure if he's kind of been a bit vague on whether he's fully bowing out or still entertaining his consultancy role. But I suppose he doesn't want to kind of bow out on a completely embarrassing, sort of exit as well, does he? He still wants to put in a fairly decent kind of showing in. So he's got to be a bit careful just throwing in the youth completely as well. So, Stu, what do you reckon? I know you've been a big advocate for sort of protecting the youth a little bit, haven't you? Just I think at this moment in time, and I maybe suggested that we use them a bit more regularly, but I think that's still with a view of kind of protecting them. But what's kind of your views? Have you changed your opinion on that? Do you still think that we should be protecting them, or do you think we've got nothing to lose now to the end of the season?
Look, I can see the idea that we got nothing to lose, so bring the youth in. But there's two ways to blood youth, and the best way to blood youth is to get them in and around the first team on a match day. Get them in the changing room, see what goes on, and experience what a match day is like. So when they go out to train, they're experiencing 76,000 people. Because you only really blood youth at home. You never blood them away. It just doesn't make sense. It never works. So that's how you blood youth. Everybody thinks you blood youth by chucking them in for 90 minutes or 15 minutes, 20 minutes or whatever. That's not what you do with youth. You blood it properly. And that's how they did it with the class of 92. You bring them in gradually, but you have them in and around the first team, not just training, but on a match day. So you take them to the Lowry, they have the pre-match meal, they have the pre-match instructions. They're told if they come on, this is what happens. They go to the game together. They're in the changing room. They're in that environment. And once you've got used to that environment, you then take the next step, and that's get used to playing football. It's dead easy to turn around and say, let's just chuck Gamacho on or just chuck Medjbury on, etc., etc., etc. If they get a trouncing, Chelsea, we put 2 or 3 of the youth in, they get a trouncing, 5 or 6-0, you've got to see the long-term effect that's going to do on a young player. Secondly, we don't have the personnel to coach the young players through a game. And that's something else you've got to do. You've got to be able to coach them. If they make a mistake, you've got to be able to, look, mate, don't worry about it. As soon as the ball comes to you, knock it short for 2 yards. Don't do anything flashy with it. Get it and move it. You have to do all this during a game. So you've got to be very, very careful what you do. We don't have those players. We don't have Matic is not vocal enough. Bruno won't do it because he's at the minute too busy chucking his hands up in the air. You can't rely on McTominay. You can't rely on Fred. So you've got to be exceptionally careful on who you use alongside youth as well. So as I say, it's dead easy to just say, yeah, let's put youth in, but you've got to do it properly. You've got to think of all the ramifications, not just blooding them for 15 or 20 minutes.
No, I totally agree. I suppose it's kind of, I do agree with that mentality as well. It's not just necessarily playing games. It's been around. I suppose you're seeing your players like your Ronaldo's getting used to the vibe, getting used to kind of, like you say, the dynamics. And obviously these players are just coming into like first team training as well, aren't they? So it's getting used to that kind of setup as well. But I suppose we all just kind of want a bit of hope towards the end of the season. Sorry?
We do, but you've got a speed difference as well you've got a massive speed difference between under 23 football and Premier League football. There's a huge difference in speed. power, common sense, from different teams. Mentalities are different level completely playing Premier League football than it is to under 23s and under 18s. So I say there's a whole plethora of things you've got to consider rather than just pick Medjugorje up and put them in the 11. You've got to really consider the whole picture.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm sure, like I say, he's been in training quite a bit recently as well. So you're just kind of hoping that he does look ready to me. I mean, I've always been a big advocate for that. The fact that if you're good enough, you're old enough. But it's
he does look really ready, Reece. And we all loved it, by the way, when he came in and put Keita on his back, or was it Mane? I can't quite remember which one he did. But there's your youthful exuberance, and there's your rush of blood to the head. And you can't do that for 90 minutes.
No, no doubt. Well, that's kind of where you're expecting your senior players and your captain to step up and put an arm around them and guide them in the round. We don't have that now, as we all know.
Our captain showing leadership, that won't happen ever. Silly.
Mr. Tom, what's your views on the youth? Are you a big advocate for it, or what's your thoughts on it?
I'm an advocate of it when you're a winning side and you're performing at a high level, because it's very then easy to transition into that first team. Do you know what I mean? That's how Bayern Munich been doing it for years. They go and buy kids and put them into their team. Do you know what I mean? It's very easy when it's like that. This toxic environment and the culture that we have right now, nah, I wouldn't risk it. The only way you do it, if you put 11 kids in there, that's the only way you do it, in my opinion. You don't do it with the problems that we clearly can see with our own eyes right now. That dressing room's a mess. That it's toxic, and you see Scott McTominay alluding to it. You see, look what Paul Scholes said about Lingard, and you want to put a kid in that environment. Do you know what I mean? Imagine going to work in that environment every day, and it's not for those, man. They need.
Well, I suppose it's a fair point. I suppose it's kind of like what Stu said, really. That that's kind of what messed up. Like you sort of like say your Lingards and people like that, because they're so used to this kind of social culture now, this kind of social media culture, and have not been maybe guided in the way that we were used to maybe, a fair few years ago, where the players were doing the right things to be a little bit more grounded. I suppose they've just kind of been throwing a lot of money and expect. And
there's no standards right now. There's no standards right now.
No, yeah, you're right. Sally, what's your views, mate? Are you kind of with Mr. Ton on that one and Stu just on that? Or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think chucking them in the deep end and expect them to swim is not the right way, as I think I've said previously. It's more the fact of just got to give them little cameos, little introductions into the team, like just to get the taste of it a little bit. It's like you don't want them to go out there and perform, say, like you said, get absolutely battered by a team, and it knocks their confidence and it doesn't do them well going into next season or going into pre-season. So I think just little cameos and then pre-season, just to let them get a taste of the new philosophy under Erik ten Hag, which is going to be important and which is going to be vital. I mean, so the little cameos is for them to show that they're promising, that they've got potential, that they should deserve to stay instead of going on loan or to be sold. So I think little cameos rather than completely changing the 11 by just putting youth in. I mean, another thing I think we've got to be wary of as well is like the likes of Elanga. Like he's still a young lad, and don't get me wrong, he's done well this season when he's come on, and he's done well when he started games. But then it gets to that point where you do still get frustrated with him as a fan, where he probably has not got the right technical ability at the right time. And that's all comes from learning. And what it was, because we threw them straight into the deep end at sometimes, where it was probably better they started on the bench and coming on, we expect too much from them. And then what happens is they tend to get overhyped. They tend to get too much expectations of them. And then we start to hate them. And then we start to resent them. And we start to actually think to yourself they're useless, when in fact they're being poorly managed. And that's what's important, that they have to be managed correctly in order for us to get the best out of them. It's like, for example, it's like Rashford right now. You've got to remember what the age he come into the team and the actual impact he had on the team that whole season, and then the next season, and then the next season. That's why the standards of Rashford and the expectation of him are so high, because of what he come into the team with. It's all we've seen
it quite a bit as well. So sorry to sort of interject, but just to add to your point, I think we've seen it over the years, haven't we, as well? You saw like Zaha come into the team, you saw Januzaj, you saw Welbeck, and play
That's what happens.
Cleverly. It never caught on, did it? And they were in the team quite suddenly, and in a big teams expecting to perform.
That's it.
Yeah.
And what was lucky, like the names that you mentioned there, like in terms of even down to Januzaj and down to Cleverly, they had leaders around them. They had inspiration. They had idols to look up to and play with. If they made a poor mistake, they'll have Scholes or Carrick on their shoulder saying, "Don't worry about it. Just make sure the next one's better." They had the likes of Rio and Vidic giving them that confidence. There's nothing for them to. How can I say to you? There's nothing for them to look up to on that field apart from Ronaldo. Is probably the only one that you could say will actually give them that encouragement. I mean, if you look at some of the videos that comes out before the game in the tunnel, it's Ronaldo going round to the players, giving them that source of encouragement, giving that confidence, giving them that G up, that what the captain should do to say, look, come on, you got this today, you can do well. I mean, I was at Brentford away, and I watched him like in the warm up, and he went over to Elanga, he went over to them all just to make sure that they were feeling good about themselves, that they were ready for the game. Now that's important for a youngster, but I just think, going back to the original point, I think they just got to be managed just a lot better. They have to be managed correctly in order for them not to beat off fans.
No, I appreciate that. I agree. We have got to look after these. I think looking at the youth setup that we've got an unbelievable youth squad, haven't we? We're obviously, the under-18s are in the FA Youth Cup final. It's brilliant. So, we've really got to kind of look after them and stuff like that and not push them. And I think, like you say, we've seen in the past where we have pushed young like sort of superstars, if you want to call them superstars. I know Stu doesn't like that term.
No such thing.
But these young like kids that are coming through, I've got a bit of talent, and we don't want to ruin that talent. Do we want to see them sort of prosper as well? So, Bainesy, what's your view on it, mate? Do you agree with most of the panel, or what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I agree with most of the panel. To be fair, you got to be really careful with youth because, when you're playing the youth games, you're playing a similar kind of level, and then you go into, let's say, pro or even the Premier League, you're playing against all kinds of different teams with different tactics, with different knowledge, know-how, and you always look at the senior teams, and I don't know why, but Burnley always come up in my head about when I try and make a point like this is if you go away at Burnley, you just think they're just going to kick the shit out of you, especially to the younger players, and wind them up, and they'll get a yellow or a red, and that's where it's very important. Like the rest of the group said, that it's important for the senior players to say, look, they're going to get in your head. You need to start thinking about this and just shrug it off, and you'll find, just play your football and you'll be fine. I don't really think we have too many senior figures in the squad to do that at the moment. Another thing also, I think Sat mentioned it, which was, I think the fan base has got a lot to play with it as well. It's easy when you're winning games and you bring on a youth player for 15, 20 minutes. And, Greenwood's a brilliant example. And obviously it's a shame what's everything that's happened, and he doesn't deserve to be in a United shirt. But I'm just trying to use it as an example that recently we brought a youth player through, and I'm not sure if everyone remembers, but he played a lot of Europa League, and he come on in the Premier League for 10, 15 minutes at a time. And as we saw the season go on, that 10 minutes turned to 15 minutes, then it turned to 20 minutes. Then all of a sudden it was like 60 minutes. And then he was starting to be a regular footballer, and he was scoring all kinds of goals. Now it needs to be similar. In his position, it was easy to do that because you can rotate the wingers, the strikers, or however you want to call it. Whereas people like a left back, you can't just change a left back, for 10, 15, 20 minutes or something. So it's a bit different. But I believe the fan base has got a lot to do with it as well. We have to be very careful with youth players because they don't bring, well, some players do, but they don't bring consistency. And that's exactly what we need at this kind of level, which is extremely important right now for us. And they just don't bring consistency. For 90 minutes, they could be absolutely amazing. They could tear up the whole place. And then they could drop a stinker the next game and everyone's onto them. And then mentally, that's not great for them. They need to be surrounded in an environment and in a winning team, constantly going out there and trying new things, and they're winning. And that mentality is grown from a youth level, and then evolves. And, I mean, you can just look at few players. Would Ronaldo be as successful if he weren't in a winning United team? If Ronaldo came right now and he was 18 years old and we signed him from Sporting, and he walked into this Man United team that weren't winning, that was struggled to buy a win, would he be as successful growing up? Would he have gone to Madrid and scored all those goals and won all those Champions Leagues? I don't think so. So it's very important that young players they're in a winning team and they're encapsulating that whole environment. So it's very careful. I'm sure Eric Ten Hag will. I've said it numerous times that he does work with a lot of youth players, and I hope he can look at the youth system, youth setup, and say, yeah, I like him, pick him in. Oh, I like him, and pick him in, and include him somehow. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, I suppose. I agree with the panel.
No, brilliant. Well, we've got a few questions coming in as well, which is quite good. So I'm going to sort of throw out a question, and whoever wants to pick it up, I'm not going to sort of come to you one by one, but we'll just. I think we've got a question enough for everybody to answer something. So, first question is from Jarvis Cocker. I don't think the Jarvis Cocker, unfortunately. It might be, it might not be. But we've got a question. Selection of youth players: Medri, Iqbal, Savage, Garnacho, Fernandes, McNeil, to name a few. Who takes the next steps to be part of the senior squad? Who would you like to see take the next steps to take the senior squad next season? Anybody want to pick that one up? Mr. Ton, or you want to take that one, mate? Yes.
I'll be honest with you. Fernandes is someone that I'll straight away say, and I would say that because of our current fullback situation, we definitely need an improvement. And one thing that I've noticed with him is that his physique. He's got really quite broad shoulders. He's a big lad. Do you know what I mean? He had the last game on Friday. First half, he wasn't that great, but second half, he got back into it. And then the last 15 minutes, he was excellent. Honestly, the balls he was putting in was excellent. Like, he is something for the future. People talk about the Garnachos and all the other kind of balls, but him as a talent, but just in general, we have a lot of talent that we've got around Europe. And a lot of that is due to John, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? And what he's done. And the coaches he's got in from Man City as well. There's something in the works there with the youth, but definitely I would say Fernandes. Garnacho is someone, he's rapid, but Fernandes is someone, especially with a fullback situation. We definitely need an upgrade there. And that's somewhere I'll say we're not pre-prioritizing from the reports. So it would make sense to then look into the youth, if that makes sense for that situation.
Yeah. He's all right going forward, but he's a bit suspect at the back, isn't he? His positioning just at this point in time.
No, he is. But most attacking fullbacks, though.
He would be the one. He would be the one that I would suggest anyway. Excellent going forward. He just again, he needs to work his positional sense at the fullback area, and that's our biggest problem right now. And somebody asked a question about Brandon Williams, and I would bring him back. He's not had a bad second half of the season with Norwich. He's been quite steady. He's got a bit of
That's your question, Stu, for that one. If this one,
he's quite tenacious, and he'd have had a shout. He would have played. He would have played this, last few games. I think. So yes, in answer to your question, was it Blakey? Is it? Yes, I'd bring him back. But yeah, Mr. Ton, totally agree about Fernandes. We just got that Luke Shaw, that Tellez issue with his positional. He said that though, he's young enough to mould. He's young enough to turn around and say, "Oi, stand there, don't move."
Is there a fullback in the world though that has that kind of sort of fine balance between defensive and attack? Is there one? Kyle Walker, maybe.
Joshua Kimmich, before he went into centre midfield, fucking outstanding fullback, and Philip Lahm.
Philip Lahm did it as well, yeah.
But you know
what? Fabinho as well, when he was playing right back, he was actually a solid right back. Fabinho,
he was brilliant. Monaco.
The best of them all. Yeah, the best of them all, Dennis Irwin. He was fucking mint at it. He knew when to go and when to stay. He knew where to put himself. He could deliver. The greatest fullback of all time.
And most underrated as well.
And he knew how to score.
Nobody ever mentions Dennis Irwin. He played over 500 games for Man United. Won multiple trophies. Yeah, everyone seems to just mention Ashley Cole in every single frigging left back debate. Dennis Irwin was 10 times better than him.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, I mean, it's a fine art, isn't it? It's a difficult. I think it's probably the hardest position on the pitch. Personally, I think you've got to have an engine. You've got to get up. You've got to get down. You've got to be attacking. You've got to be defensive. It's a difficult position to play, and especially in the modern game now, it's
do
you
know what? I think you're right and wrong there, Reese. You know, like I think that position at central defensive midfield, it probably is the hardest, but it's the easiest if you're clever. So
I'm on about the fullbacks. Did you say?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought you said
yeah. No. The wing backs.
Fullbacks is the hardest
fullbacks
position.
Exactly the same time.
Yeah.
Reese was a fullback.
Fullbacks exactly the same.
No. I was a centre mid.
Yeah, now fullback.
All you got to do is position yourself. You've got to position yourself, believe it or not, halfway between the byline and the 18-yard box. You position yourself in the middle there. Okay, you can stop the wide play. You can stop the cutting. It's not fucking rocket science. That's where you stand.
I played fullback once and I got ripped open.
Admiration for friends who used to play up and down and see them sweat. I used to watch them just go up and down. Now I just play in centre mid and just play the balls into the channels. So yeah, no, but you'll come to another question anyway. So we've touched on that. Kind of a more
Yeah, I really like Paul Mitchell. He's got a working relationship with Ralph, and for people who don't know Paul Mitchell, I think he's a technical director at Monaco at the moment. He's seen a lot of talent come through the doors, and he's been the spearhead in all of it. And Ralph has obviously recognised that. He is very good working relationship with him. I would love to see Paul Mitchell, honestly. Now, things are starting to already fall into place, considering United let go 2 scouts, didn't they? Forgot their name.
Marcel Bout.
They let go 2.
Jim Lawler.
Jim Lawler, yeah.
And yeah, Jim Lawler, that's it.
That's how good they are.
And they were at the club for many years. So the fact that they've either had a falling out with John Murtough or John Murtough's gone, look, we need to shake this up. Paul Mitchell could be the right person. Now, there was a report that he would come into a technical director role, which was then shortly pre-described as something else, which was essentially head of scouting. And he's another senior figure, a footballing figure that can go into United and make those right decisions. Now, if we do get him in, I've got really no complaints with Richard Arnold at the moment. He's sort of took that CEO role and he's gone, right, okay, I'll bring in Ralph. He's obviously regrouped John Murtough and Darren Fletcher. If he brings in Paul Mitchell as well, along with Eric Ten Hag, it looks like the club is going in the right direction. And it's something that we've wanted for God knows how many years. I know Mourinho, there was that famous saying that he said he didn't want a director of football, which is quite hard to believe, in all honesty. And I think the media was after him at that point. I know obviously Oli brought in. John Murtough came in during his reign, and Louis van Gaal was another example where he constantly says, and he always rips into the club, that United are a commercial club, they're not a footballing club. So I really hope Paul Mitchell comes in, to be honest. It's that kind of person to bring in, and he'll bring in revamping the scouting network, which is essential at the moment. And we talk about youth, and we always talk about youth, and he could be the perfect person to come in and revamp the whole system.
Can I just touch on that quickly?
Yeah.
2 things. First thing, from a very, 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 very good source on Twitter that I trust, who's very reliable, said
name
more
them.
or less. No, I can't. The guy said I can't do it. I can't. He more or less said the Mitchell thing is a done deal. And then second of all, another, I can name my other mate because he never mentioned that, but he just said that Paul Mitchell, to be fair, is overqualified for the number 2 role, right? But then, and this was before it came out, and the report said, if anything, the role that he would take would be head of recruitment, because, and then within a couple of days that did come out that it's most likely he will be head of recruitment, because if you actually, he's overqualified to be someone's number 2, if that makes sense, deputy number 2. And the majority of the roles that he has been in at previous clubs has been like head scout, chief scout, and things like that. But what it does tell me is that Man United as a club, by getting rid of those 2 scouts, because those 2 scouts are very old-fashioned, and they will go look at a player with their eyes, so the eye test, they say. Whereas in the one scout that they have kept, I think it's Mick Cook, if I'm correct, he's more of the analytics side, the data side.
Yeah.
So that will be more in the direction United's sort of looking to move in. The only bad thing with that, if you look at the data side, that's how you end up with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, because if people don't know, that's how we ended up with him, right? It was all through data, really. So, but that's because Jose wanted a defensive right back. So that it's a good and bad thing with that. But if you have Paul Mitchell above overseeing the data, then it's a good thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, brilliant.
That's a good
I
point.
found it was weird because when I showed Bainesy the other day that I think I went to the game where we lost 2-0 to City, which basically ended Liverpool winning the league, and City won the league. And I must have done a YouTube interview with one of the panels outside, and I said it from then. I was like, Paul Mitchell should be in our head of recruitment or the director of football, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he worked with Spurs and Brighton as well as Leipzig. I think they were the other 2 clubs that he did work with.
It was MK Dons,
Southampton.
Yeah,
Southampton,
isn't
and
it?
then Spurs, and it was chief scout. And then that's when he went to RB. He worked for RB in 3 different roles, and then he went to RB New York in 2 different roles and was technical director in the RB New York group. And then he went to Monaco and was sporting director. So it's only once he's been sporting director, twice technical director, and then majority have been like chief scout, technical scout, and things like that.
And the majority of all them clubs have actually made a very, very good players that fulfill their potentials, and that's what's important. I think having him within the club will help us stop buying them sort of Galactico sidings, if you like, which we do hope that comes to an end. So I think having someone like that at the club would be ideal. But my only worry is whether they're going to give him the control that he wants, because I see a lot of reports coming out saying that the club are really against the idea of hiring Mitchell because they're scared of losing maybe the control of the club. I think that's another worry.
Club, sorry, mate. The club aren't bothered. The Glazers are.
The Glazers, sorry, yeah, that's what I should say.
Yeah, I know that's what you meant, mate. But also, can I just jump in on this one as well?
Yeah, of course you can.
Paul Mitchell would be absolutely amazing. I think it'd be exactly what United.
I thought you were going to throw a spanner in the works then.
No.
You lined that up. It's like rubbing. I was like, what? In a minute?
I was getting my popcorn.
Yeah.
Paul Mitchell will be amazing if he's head of recruitment. I think the transfer strategy could be probably left alone. I don't think the fans would have anything to worry about. The only thing that we'd have to worry about is the Glazers. I think over the last decade, we're very right to feel like that, though. Over the last nearly 20 years, I should say, really. But there seems to be a little bit of a thing with fans at the minute saying, and it seems to be a little bit of a love-in for Jose regarding the director of football and technical directors and heads of recruitments and all this, and how he called the Glazers out and he was right all along. He didn't do any of this. He only did something slightly like that when he started losing games. Jose never wanted to work with the director of football. It's quite actually well documented that he refused to work with a director of football because he wanted it. He wanted the control, per se. And Jose, literally at the start of his tenure at Man United, came out and said what good owners the Glazers were. So this loving that fans seem to have for Jose Mourinho is frigging baffling to me. I actually think hiring Mourinho, as excited as we all were at the time, let's not lie, because it's Jose Mourinho and the record that he has, I probably think that settles back 3-4 years. So we need to stop with this loving of him. But I'd be very happy with Paul Mitchell. I still think more's possibly needed. I think a huge, because City have got so much of a structure. Liverpool have got so much of a structure with so many football people making so many decisions that I think just Rangnick and Paul Mitchell probably isn't enough. I'd like to hope that John Murtough will have a decent amount to say. Hopefully, Darren Fletcher. I'm so sick of people coming out and saying, "Oh, it's a job for the old boys" and all that. Darren Fletcher has done all his coaching badges. He's more than qualified to be in the position that he's in. And as soon as people just write that on Twitter, it just immediately makes me think you don't know anything about Man United. The disrespect some of these people get who are associated with United and have been for such a long time. These haven't just been given the job because they played for Man United. These people did coaching badges and studied courses to know all this sort of stuff. And yeah, it probably helps a little bit that they play for United, but I'd rather have someone like that in the club who understands the club and who's been around the club for so many years and has all the qualifications and has all that, and then pair them with the likes of Rangnick and Paul Mitchell than have just some random who might not be qualified at all. People need to just stop commenting on things.
Right? Sorry, just quickly, Callum. I actually find it hilarious that these people call out Darren Fletcher, but these people are the same people that praise Van der Sar at Ajax, and he's in the exact same position as Fletcher.
His merit of getting that though, Baines, hasn't he got a degree in football something? I don't know.
And he was an ex-player, wasn't he? I'm sure he was.
And
yeah, he played for.
Keep seeing fans going, why does Darren Fletcher? Why is he on the sidelines, or why is he on the sub bench at all? Well, these are the same people that criticised Solskjaer back and smiling. Like,
I just want to make a quick. Milan, Barcelona, people that pay is very normal. Mars who just sit on the bench with him all the time. I just want people to know that Overmars who just always sit on the bench with him at Ajax. This is very. It's just the British mentality. It's very normal in European football. Very, very normal. Very normal.
It's a team, isn't it?
Do you know what? Saturday and Mr. Tom, I friggin' you two are mint, honestly. You've not said anything that's pissed me off, and that's unlikely. That's not usual, that. Because I've been on about 3
videos. Boys, he never once said this about me, by the way. When I was
neither me, mate. I'm not. I'm in his bad books. I think I'm in Callum's bad books.
I think it is a very good
we're moving on to obviously the Paul Mitchell thing, but equally transfers briefly next season. Obviously, there's some targets flowing around, and there's a usual spin on some players now, isn't there? And a lot of money attached to those players. Is there any sort of realistic truth to any of it? Does anybody want to kind of pick up this one? Do you think?
I think
is Torres the right one, Callum and Timber?
I think Pau Torres was probably a year ago. I think that was probably when to get him. I think Timber. I mean, I think the links with Ten Hag will probably bring Timber straight away anyway, because obviously he's Ajax manager and the media will jump on it. I think the reason why Timber might be a better fit, and I'm only saying this through the experience of watching United this season and watching Ajax under Ten Hag, it's quite obvious that Timber fits the way Ten Hag wants to play. And because of that, I think it'd be a player you could bring in without kind of having to coach that new style as much, if you know what I mean. I think Timber would just come in to Man United and know what Ten Hag wants and do what Ten Hag wants. Pretty
seems
much.
Like it seems quite an athletic player, doesn't he, as well? Like,
and he's versatile.
He's very. Do you know what?
I said he's a right back and a centre back, isn't he?
Thank you. I thought he was a right back. But everyone keeps saying he's a centre back.
He's a centre back. That can play right back.
So we can play both. Well, I mean, that helps.
But he seems to play the ball quite progressively. So he'll march with the ball as well, which I was quite impressed with. Really, you know, carries the ball.
You can't play him alongside Varane though. Here's the thing: everyone will clamber for Timber, but you can't put Varane alongside. Straight away, it's a no-no. I mean, it just doesn't work. So
he's quite young, though.
This is the problem.
Well, I
21.
actually half agree with that, Stu, to be fair. I assumed we were buying him as a right back because how much
He started
Ten
out
Hag
life as a
likes to
right back.
use- Yeah, because he likes to utilise his fullbacks who can start the build-up play from the sides of the pitch and march the ball forward. And Timber's so good at that for Ajax. I assumed our plan to sign him was to put him in the right back position, and not because I think Torres would do the exact same. I don't think you could buy him and put him next to Varane. I don't
We are
think
in
you could
for
put
him,
him
by
next
the
to
way.
Maguire either.
We are in for Timber.
Probably Lindelof is the best suited next to him, isn't it? Out of all of them.
Yeah.
I would think
This is
so.
what I mean.
Just on the Van der Beek thing as well. I mean, Stu, do you want to pick that one up? Do you think Van der Beek makes his way back into the United team next season, or do you think that's just?
I mean, he will do. Look, the biggest problem we're going to have, the biggest problem you're going to have now is we are going to be linked with every Ajax player, past, present, and future. That's the issue with the media right now and people's focus. We're going to every single Ajax. So if you consider in 24 hours, no Man United fan was clambering for Frankie de Jong 2 weeks ago. Not one fan. And now all of a sudden,
Wait.
Oh, Stu, I don't know about that. I think a lot. I think a lot of fans would have picked their hand off if they.
Stu, honestly,
what I'm saying is,
Go on.
no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. What I'm saying is, though, if you look at the bulk of Twitter fans, Man United fans, 2 weeks ago, de Jong wasn't on anybody's lips.
That's your problem, though, Stu, isn't it? You just said Twitter fans.
Yeah, this is what happens. Look, I quite like Frankie de Jong. I think he's a bit lightweight still. He is going to have to bulk up to play in the Premier League. But it's who you put alongside him, which is going to be quite key. And he's very, very similar to Bruno. So what do you do with Bruno? And
they're two different players, man.
What do you do with Van der Beek? I don't know. I don't know. If you look at the way that Frankie de Jong was used, in the Ajax side, he was used as an 8. He's and a 10. He's very, very similar to the way that Bruno plays. So you'd have to decide how you want to play Bruno. And for me, I quite like de Jong. I think he's a bit lightweight. I think we could do better. I think we need a holding midfielder first before you go for de Jong. I think you bring de Jong in, you have a Pogba, Bruno issue again. I don't think you can put de Jong, and I don't think you can put Bruno in the same side. I think it would be almost like a magnetic explosion, unfortunately. So for me, it doesn't work.
I don't. I mean, I've seen that comment there from Tyra. I don't think there's any truth in it. I think we've seen this over the years, haven't we? With David Silva was linked to Man United for seasons on season when he was at Valencia, and it never happened. Schneider, and the list goes on, doesn't it? The team, even Thiago, and then he never went, and he went to Bayern Munich before he came back over to the Premier League. So it carries on and on and on. I don't think there's any truth in it personally.
I just want to make one point.
Yeah, go ahead, mate. Yeah, of course, yeah.
About 2 months ago, or 3 months ago, whenever it was, we was linked to Ten Hag. I was like, watch, he's going to come in. We're going to get linked to Anthony. We're going to get linked to Dion. And I thought we were going to get linked to Delette. But obviously it's Timber. Because what makes sense for a manager like that is that he would want at least 1 or 2 or 3 players that understand his philosophy already to just go straight into the team. And I said this literally before we was linked, and people on Space can tell you, I've been saying this for a long time. The De Jong thing, what some people don't know and they think it's unrealistic, is that Barca have actually they've been trying to offload him for 1 year now, a whole year. And that's his fact. They've actually, because I follow Barca, they've actually been trying to offload him for a year. Right? And that's why a lot of the reports that actually are coming from him is on the Spanish side. It's not no England reporters reporting it, and it's actually the Dutch side as well. His dad came out in January in December and stated, look, we want to stay at Barca, but we know Barca's situation. He's an asset to them and they need money. And that's the main thing. It's not that they want to sell him, like Xavi doesn't want to sell him, but the club look at him and value him as a sellable asset. So if it's an option, put it that way. It's not an impossible target if Ten Hag wanted him. Trust me, it's not impossible as much as I don't want to get people's hopes up, but I'm just saying it's not impossible because of the situation they're in.
No, fair enough. Well, I'm sure, like I say, this summer will be interesting. There'll be 1,000 players linked to Man United, won't there? So it's just going to go on and on and on. But Yeah, I just want to we've got like sort of another 15 minutes ish left, and want to come on to the Chelsea game really, and the formation and the score prediction. We've kind of gone to
completely forgot about Chelsea game.
Oh yeah, the Chelsea game Thursday. Oh god, yeah, we're still playing, aren't we? I was thinking if the top four was on it, probably be a little bit more on the front four. Yeah, all of his mind, wasn't it? So yeah, I was going to see if I can share this screen. I'm doing this seamlessly, guys.
Look at this.
Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. I'm like Carragher, apart from when I've got longer trousers on. So yeah. So guys, I've put in I've just put that in there just so we can all manipulate it, and I've tried to put some subs in there. So if I've missed somebody, just let me know. But I've got a general formation here and a set of players. Callum, I'll start with you and back line, and we'll mess with the forward line a little bit further on. We'll come to everybody on the back line, midfield, and then go from front three or strikers or whatever you want to do. So, do you initially agree with what I've got there, or do you think that will be a different back four on that?
I think Wan-Bissaka might play right back.
Right. Okay. So we've got a Wan-Bissaka in here as well. So
yeah.
I think he plays right back as well.
There, yeah, pop him there.
So do anybody object to that? Are we all on the same page with that?
I actually think he's going to play as well.
I think Dalot could go left back.
Dalot left back, right? I'm gonna put Wan-Bissaka right back. I agree with that, Callum, on that one.
I'd probably agree with everything else, maybe bar Rashford. Actually, yeah, it'll either be Elanga or Rashford, I think.
Yeah,
and Sancho and whoever that left side is will constantly chop and change.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's go through your team, and then we'll do Stu, come on to Bainesy, Satty, and Mr. Tom. So we'll go through your team in terms of where you think we're at, and if there's any disagreements. And Simon's got this nailed down. I don't know how he does the votes, but he's got this one nailed. But let's go through your team, mate.
Unfortunately, I think old glue stick to the line will start. So De Gea. I think
not Endo, no, not Endo.
Oh, I wish he would, but he won't. Tellez will probably start left back. Maguire and Varane, unless Varane's decided to be injured again. Wan-Bissaka will probably start again. Did Matic start at the weekend? Can anyone remember?
He did, yeah.
He did, yeah. Because we were struggling for midfield at the minute.
He'll be Fred.
Yeah,
Fred's back in training. He's back in training, is he?
I think because he's only just back in training, they'll probably try Matic again, but he'll probably get knackered after 24 seconds. McTominay will probably start because he seems to have shown that little bit of fight. Bruno is a shoe, and I think he'll start. I think he'll probably.
Do you think Bruno? So you think Bruno will start despite all the flack he's had off the back of the Arsenal game?
Yeah.
I think he will. Honestly, this Johnny FX led Bruno slander is really winding me up. Without,
by the way, it's not led by me, Callum. I'm just
no. But honestly, some people I'm seeing online slating him as much as he is. Do you know what? Yeah. He's not in his best form, but Christ almighty, he scored 28 goals last season, and without him, I don't know where he would have finished. It's mental. Players have bad games, but honestly, tell me one player, bar probably Ronaldo, or maybe Sancho, that has been good. You know, we all love Rashford last season, but he's been abysmal this year. You know, we all expected Varane to be the best centre-back in the league. He's not exactly lit it up. I hate to say it, but I think Stu might actually have been right at the start of the season that he was probably right to be a little bit sceptical. This is what I mean. That this season has been absolutely crazy for United fans, because looking at that team, you'd be like, oh yeah, we should be challenging. But then when you look at how poorly they've performed and how little desire they've put in, and the lack of effort, and the leaks coming out and all that sort of stuff, you just think something is so unbelievably wrong. Like, I genuinely think, really, there, if you look at that 11, I think that'd be the 11 that'll start, the 11 players on the pitch there.
In this formation as well, we all
I'd
agree
be a
with this
bit more
formation.
slightly radical.
I think McTominay might be a little bit further forward, maybe as the kind of Fred-esque 8, probably a little bit more like that, yeah. But I think that's probably what we'll see. I actually think Fred coming back could be good for us. I think Rashford will get a start because constantly being on the bench isn't going to do much for him in confidence-wise. Whether he deserves to start or not is a different matter. But looking at that team there, genuinely, I think Ronaldo, Bruno, Sancho, and Varane, just because we know how good Varane actually is, they are probably the team. They're probably the 4 players that could probably not be too disheartened with how they've been this season. Varane out of that 4 maybe could be a little bit, but Sancho, Bruno, and Ronaldo, I think, have been okay this year. I think that the Bruno thing is his standards were set so high that now 9 goals and 6 assists in the league isn't exactly awful. It's not brilliant, but it's not terrible. And considering how poor the entire team have been, I think people need to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. So I think that will probably be what starts on Thursday.
Right. No, brilliant.
I'd change it very slightly.
Now or later?
Yeah, we'll have a bit of a casting vote on it, but cheers for that. I mean, I obviously just put that out there as a kind of an expectation, but I don't think just to kind of defend Bruno as well, that any player has been free of criticism at some point of this season, have they? So, that's just kind of been the season that we've had, that every player at some stage has had a spate of criticism, whether it be right or wrong. But cheers for that, Callum. Stu, do you want to kind of go through your team? Is there any changes? Do you want to just touch on the changes in there?
Yeah, I'd change it slightly. I'd change the formation slightly as well. So Sancho to the left for me, Mata for the right, and I would play McTominay as your holding player and Fred to come in. But what I want you to do is tuck Sancho. Sancho left.
Mata right. Sancho left.
Yeah.
And what we're going for midfield?
Yeah. We're going to go with Fred and McTominay, but McTominay to be the holding player, Fred is the 8.
Right, so almost like... So we're going to do something like that.
So,
is that right?
No. Bruno back alongside Fred. So we'll play 2 8s. We won't play a 10.
Right, okay. A bit more like that.
McTominay more central. Drop Fred and Bruno, and then put Sancho and Mata, draw them in.
Also, it's like a 4. It's like kind of that 4-2-2-2 thing, wasn't it, that he did before a little bit?
It'll be quite narrow. Yeah, so it'll be quite narrow. But Ronaldo remains our focal point. So when we're under, so when we're out of possession, you drop Mata to the right of Bruno, Sancho to the left of Fred. That will counteract their 2 fullbacks, which is likely to be Alonso and likely to be Reece James. Yeah. So when we don't need to be too deep then. So we don't need to rely on Mata's pace. But what you've got there is some kind of protection for Wan-Bissaka. So people have been moaning about Wan-Bissaka this year. He's actually, positionally, he's not too bad. The issue is he's had nobody to help him whatsoever and counteract the attack. So when we're out of possession, that's how we line up. When we're in possession, we go narrow, and that will give their back 3 more of an issue. And that's that's what I would do.
Brilliant. Well, we'll not finish on a formation, but we'll talk for each person's formation, and then we'll, some sort, I'm sure, agree somewhere in the middle. But brilliant. Bainesy, what's your view? Do you agree with Stu? Do you agree more with Callum that it's going to be it's kind of a combination between what you think and what you want, as opposed to
this is what I'm thinking about. So I actually think we'll go to like a 4-2-3-1, and with exactly the same team, but I would put in Alanga instead of Mata.
Right. Okay.
Not only because I just think Alanga just works a little bit more harder. Has a little bit, he's just a bit.
Yeah, he has the problem with that is he's not got the skill or the guile, mate. That's the problem. That's what we've been crying out for weeks.
I know. I just feel like with Chelsea's the wing backs, our fullbacks are just going to get killed though with the wing backs, and I feel like if you put in
3-5-2,
if you put in an Alanga instead of
Bainsy. No. Don't forget, you're forgetting one thing though. It's not Chilwell, it's Alonso, and he can't defend for shit. He's wank at defending.
Well, Aspilicueta on the other side as well, isn't it?
Can exploit him a lot better than Alanga.
But we usually struggle against 3-5-2, don't we? Always.
Yeah.
We always end up being exploited.
Common sense football, though, that's the problem.
Yeah,
it's common sense football. If you've got the sense to play it, yeah, that's right. That's why I don't think Alanga's the right choice. We've got to look. Sometimes in football, you've got to go rogue. I talk about it all the time. You've got to take a risk. Matt is a huge risk, and they won't be expecting it.
I just don't think he's the Matter that we all know though anymore. I generally don't. I know he's got the knowledge, but having the knowledge and actually doing it are two completely different things. And I don't know. He's not had enough game time for me. So maybe with someone a bit younger, a bit more exuberant, a bit more energy. I just want, to be honest, it can be any team, it can be any back four, as long as Fred and McTominay in front of it. I don't care what people say about them two. It can't be a coincidence that we have turned to absolute shit since they've come out the side. It cannot be a coincidence. Every single time they play, we do seem to grow. We don't have the most best performance, but we do seem to grind out results. That can't be a coincidence. It really can't be. So if Fred and McTominay if they're fit, I know McTominay will be, but Fred was training. I don't know if he will be 100%, but whatever it is, we just need to get them two back for the last remaining 4 games. Hopefully we can give Chelsea a tough game. Obviously we're at home, so we've got to go for it, I think. But yeah, this is the team I'll go for. I would actually argue to put Delot instead of Telles because I think Telles is. I don't know what's wrong. I don't think he's Premier League, to be honest. I don't think he can go forward. I don't think he can defend either. I much rather have Delot there. But again, I'm not the manager. But that would be my team there.
Disagree with that Delot Telles point.
Yeah.
Well, you prefer Telles, do you? You don't like Delot?
I prefer Telles to Shaw, mate.
Really?
Oh, yeah, Shaw's right.
Cool. Blimey. I mean, I know they're not great, Cal, but fucking hell. I'd rather have Shaw than anyone else, but obviously he's not fit. I mean,
we've had Shaw for 8 years.
I know.
2014.
He broke his leg in 2 places. He was out for 2.5
8 years ago. Oh,
he was out for 2.5. No, it wasn't 8 years ago. It weren't 8 years ago. It weren't 8 years ago.
2014.
And then he got injured for 2.5 years. Then he came into a Mourinho side, and Mourinho absolutely killed him. And then we saw his best years under Solskjaer.
No, we didn't see how good he was under Solskjaer. We saw how good he was for 6 months under Solskjaer.
That's a bit. I mean, it's not 6 months, though, was it? I mean, come on. He was good the whole season. He was good the whole season. And then
let's be honest, a top club is not going to have a player for 8 years.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Underperform. You get where I'm coming from. A top club is
I know, but we're just not there, though, are we?
Shut up, Bainsy.
We're just not there, though, are we?
Sorry, you shoot, mate.
Anyway, go on. Let's do it.
It's your 5 minutes anyway, mate. Go on. What's your thing? Are you changing this up? Are you changing this up a little bit and formation, whatever? What are you going with?
I think to touch on the Fred and McTominay thing. I mean, I saw a little post about Fred being. I think what it was. I think they confirmed that 4 players was out of the game, but they said Fred could be a doubt. So, which is a bit of encouragement that he might be fit. I think what it is, as bad as their flaws are, Fred and McTominay, they do provide some sort of balance for the team. which is weird. I know it sort of contradicts and it makes it sound a bit difficult to understand, but they sort of provide that balance in where if they're going to be shit, they're going to be shit, but if they're actually good, they will be good, which is weird. And I think it's going to be more or less of what is out there. Possibly could see maybe Rashford starting ahead of Alanga for this one, maybe thinking that we can exploit their the weaknesses at the back for Chelsea.
On the right side?
On the right hand side, I'd say, yeah, to begin with. I think it could be a toss-up between Dalot and Telles for that left-back position. I mean, the goals we conceded against Arsenal were just woeful from a fullback point of view. I think Bruno will start. If he doesn't start, I can see Mata in the number 10 position, but I think more or less what's out there, it sort of picks itself now to the end of the season. I think it's more or less going to be sort of similar around this. Wouldn't be surprised if it's Matic in the place of where Fred is, just to give a bit of if Fred isn't fit enough, sorry. But I think more or less of what's out there is going to be for the next three games to go.
Yeah, there's no personnel changes other than Rashford.
I think Rashford, probably Fred, Matic or Fred, because depending how fit he is, and then obviously Dalot or Telles. But I can't see it being anything different. I can't see the likes of, I don't know, I can't see the likes of Lingard starting. So, no.
Right.
I think something like that.
Yeah, you could maybe switch out Bruno, but I think Bruno's going to start, isn't he? I think that, like Alan said, it's ridiculous to criticize.
I think it's just over. It's just social media, and I think it's just the overreactionary of some fans. Like, they forgot what he's done for the last 2.5 years. I mean, we were just being carried by his brilliance, if you like, him dragging us out of games and winning us points left, right, and centre. And I think just to turn your back on one single player when collectively they've all been shit, that's what I think is just shows sometimes how toxic the fan base is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I thought we'd lost to Mr. Tom there. Thankfully, he's just come in just as you were finishing up there, Saturday, mate. But no, brilliant. Yeah, I sort of agree with that. I think I'd like to think that, like Stu, that it's going to be a total revamp, but I don't think it will be. I think it'll be pretty similar to what we're seeing there. So, which is a bit of a shame. Mr. Tom, do you want to add anything to this, mate? Do you want to shake it up a little bit like Stu did, or are you kind of thinking it's going to be something along these lines?
I think if Fred is fit, I think that would be the only change with Matic, because I think Ralph's going to look at it, and even though it was Arsenal, he's going to look at it, and in short spells in the game, we created a lot of chances comparing to the last few games, if that makes sense. So I don't think he's going to change that much. I'll be honest with you. I think if Fred's fit, because he keeps going on about Fred and McTominay, I definitely think that one's going to slide in. I'm not sure about Wan-Bissaka. I don't think Ralph fancies him, to be honest with you. So I think it's going to be more of the same. I'll be honest with you.
So you think it's going to be Dalot right and Tellers left?
Yeah, so the lineup the other day, I think it was Victor Lindelof and Varane started, if I'm correct, and Telles left back, Matic and McTominay. So if Fred is fit, Fred will come in for Matic, and then it was Sancho, Ronaldo, Elanga, and Bruno. I think he's going to go with that. I might be wrong, but I just feel like he's just going to look at the game, because and look the little spells. You know what I mean? That's what he's going to look at.
So you think Alanga's going to come? Do you say Alanga rather than Rashford? So you think Alanga, and you think so something like, so pretty much similar to that. And if Fred's fit, Fred plays. Do you think Maguire? Obviously, Maguire comes back. I think there's no doubts about that, isn't there? I think Maguire comes back after being dropped last week. You agree with that, Mr. Tony? Do you fit straight back into there?
I don't know what Ralph's thinking. I'll be honest with you. I don't see why he would have. I get it, all the situation in the week, but I didn't see that was a reason to bench him, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I'll be honest with you. Ronaldo can play it, and Ronaldo was dealing with something very emotionally. I couldn't see why Maguire couldn't play. That's just my opinion on that.
There's two different players can handle pressure, I think.
No, you're right. You are right, but I just don't. Like I said, I don't think he's going to change it much. He might put Maguire back in, but it just all depends, innit? I don't think he might change it. I'll be honest with you. Ralph's he doesn't change it dramatically, if that makes sense. It's one or two tweaks.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, I think we've all pretty much come to a sort of similar conclusion. Stu, you obviously went a little bit adventurous there, mate, and I would love to see something happen on Thursday similar to that. But I dare think it'll be something along these lines with a switch of maybe Tellers and Dallo, as the guys have suggested, and obviously the front two as well, with Sancho playing one side or Rashford playing one side and Elanga coming in. So I don't think there'll be much change to what we've usually seen personally. So, yeah, appreciate that, guys. We'll just stop sharing for a second and go through some quick score predictions, and then we'll wrap it up, guys. So I'll come to you, Callum. What's your view on the score prediction for Thursday? Do we get a result out of the game?
Do it, bollocks. No, it'll be 2-1.
I'll just write that down here, mate. On the
Do we bollocks 2-1 Chelsea? You can only laugh at this point.
Do you know what?
2-1 Chelsea.
I can tell Stu's like gazing at me there, but every single time I've tried to go, oh, we'll get a draw or we'll win, and I've had enough. I'm sick of being wrong.
I said this last week.
You're going the Bainesy tactic here.
I said 3-0.
And it'll be the other way around.
Yeah, 2-1 then Chelsea.
I'm going 1-1 by him anyway.
What you going for?
Yeah, I'm going 1 each.
What's your prediction? One each. I think that's a fair result.
1
I think
each.
I probably would have gone.
Yeah.
Mr. Tom, what's your predictions, mate?
I'll say 3-1 Chelsea. I'm going to be realistic today. I'll be honest with you.
Right. Okay. There's got to be some positivity in this panel somewhere. Come on, Satty, mate. Come on.
I'm going 2-1 United.
Oh, there we go. 2-1 United.
To be honest, I was just about.
I'm going to watch this game on Thursday, so looking at these score predictions, I'm not looking forward to this.
He's going to go shit. To be honest, I was just about to say 2-1. I was just about to say 2-1, right? Oh, sorry, go on, Stu, go on.
I give him a ticket back. I've sold the ticket back after.
I've been trying to get rid of it for a month, man. I can't get rid of it, so now I'm on it. Yeah, so.
I'd give mine back too because
I got offered a ticket for 45 quid and I assumed they were paying me the £45. I found out they weren't. I said, don't worry about it.
Go on then, Bainesy. What's your score prediction?
I was to be honest, I was going to go 2-1 United, but I just saw a comment about Lukaku scoring. Yeah, because I've got this. All right, look, hang on. I've got to justify myself here. The last couple of weeks, I've been doing reverse juju, right? So every single time I put United to win, we've lost or drawn, and every single time I put United to lose, we've won. Apart from Arsenal, so
10-0 Chelsea.
I actually think it's going to be either 2-1 or 2-2, 2-1 to United. But I just saw a comment about Lukaku. And it's sod's law. He's going to score, isn't he? He's going to score because he scored. He scored for us against Chelsea.
Actually,
he'll do another Bayer against us, won't he, or something daft like that?
Yeah. Well, he did it to Chelsea when he scored. He scored against Chelsea. We won 2-1 or 2-1, and he cupped his ears to Chelsea fans, didn't he?
He did it to Everton as well, didn't he?
He did it to Everton as well. So
I
have a feeling he's going to score.
He pull out a new Timberland line.
Well, no, I don't think he will. You want Lukaku to play because Lukaku as a striker is absolutely ideal for Maguire because he's big and he's cumbersome. Maguire will handle Lukaku. If you put him against fucking Timo Werner, Havertz, we're going to have the problem. And Pulisic, so that's where we're going to have the issues. We want Lukaku to play. If he doesn't start with Lukaku, we're going to have problems at the back. Trust me, fellas.
And I hope they play that.
It's a shame, really.
Yeah.
Look,
guys, it's sorry, guys. Yeah, it's been a bit of a long one tonight, hasn't it? But I've enjoyed that one, to be fair. So hopefully we'll enjoy Thursday. So I don't think I'll be doing. I'm not sure who's doing the reaction on Thursday actually, but whoever it is, I'm sure it'll be a good show. So again, also thank you to everybody that's been listening and watching. There's been quite a few comments tonight and some questions, so that's been really good.
Really good comments,
Yeah, really good. So quite interactive. Thank you to the panel as well. Thank you to Callum, Stu, Mr. Ton, Satty and Bainesy helping me out tonight as well and helping the channel out. So again, don't forget to subscribe to All for United, like and share as well if you watch this back. And we'll catch you all in the next one, guys. So appreciate it. Catch you soon.
Take care.